Welcome to the Sacred Emergence Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Wong, and I'm so thrilled that you're here. This is a place where you'll be guided to living your most aligned life so that your truest, most radiant self can emerge. We'll be jamming on topics ranging from spirituality, entrepreneurship, to wellness and lifestyle design, and everything in between that can support you to grow, evolve, and shine, all the while not taking ourselves too seriously. So if you're ready to step into your leadership, break through limiting beliefs, own all of who you are, and expand in abundance, grab yourself your faith cup of tea and let's dive in. Hey friends, welcome to Sacred Emergence. It's Michelle Wong here, and this is actually like a little pre-recording before I introduce my actual recording for this episode to you. This is actually a pretty big topic, and when I reheard my original, like my first recording of it, it's a little bit choppy, like in terms of my train of thought, but I decided to keep it so you can just hear my authentic voice around it and how I feel without having to re-record it and make it be all polished. I just wanted to give you that heads up, and totally open to your thoughts after you listen to it, and wishing you all a beautiful day wherever you're at, and that's it. Thanks so much. Hello. Welcome back to the Sacred Emergence Podcast. It's Michelle Wong here, and I am recording this on a rainy weekend. It is Sunday. This episode is going to get published tomorrow. So we are right on time in terms of hot off the presses. And this topic is, it's one that's very important. And I'm like, my heart's racing as I'm recording it because it's a huge topic, and it's one that I really had to sit with this weekend. It's one that's been on my mind this whole weekend of like, what do I say? What do I do? How do I take a stand? And hitting a lot of resistance around it. And I think the more I process it, the more I listen to other leaders that I follow online, this feels right. And I am so grateful that I have a podcast that I could share my voice, and just how I'm showing up and how I'm taking a stand. So this is recorded on May 31st. For those of you who have been following the media, have been following the news, or on Facebook or anywhere really, you know that right now, in the United States, there's an uprising. There is, the Black community is hurting. They've been hurting for a long time, and with like the news of George Floyd, like all of that, and just the injustice, and now is the time to take a stand. And I really sat with like, how do I show up? And just, it's so easy to watch on the sidelines. And I really had to think, like, if I talk about leadership, if I talk about inner leadership, if my work is around courage, I cannot just sit on the sidelines. And so yesterday when I was just sitting and thinking, like, what should I do? Should I post something on Facebook? Like, what is my role? Like all of that. I had to be honest and be like, I don't really know. I don't really know what the right thing to say is. And that's not what's important. Saying the right thing is not what's important. It's actually showing up and not being silent about it. And racism runs so deep in this country, not only in this country, but like I'm going to just say it, like, we're all a little bit racist. And if we don't acknowledge it, then it's going to continue. And so this episode is, it is not a political episode, but it's one on humanity and how we as humans, if we believe in equality, we have to stand. So I'm going to share just my processing, what I'm doing, and what leadership means to me, and why it's important for us to take a stand. And it's so interesting. On Friday night, I was watching The Pianist. It was, on Amazon Prime, and I was like, oh, I'll watch it. I already watched parts of it, and I continued watching it. And like, I've seen so many movies on the Holocaust, right? So like, I actually don't necessarily enjoy it because it's hard to watch. But I remember there was a quote, not in the movie, but I just remember when I see anything about the Holocaust, I always remember the quote like, first nobody supported them or nobody helped them, and then I have to find that quote. Okay, so I found the quote. um, this was I think this is on the Holocaust Memorial in Boston, and this is a quote by a German Lutheran pastor, Martin Niemöller. And basically, if you haven't heard this quote, they first came for the communists, and I didn't speak up because I wasn't a communist. Then they came for the Jews, and I didn't speak up because I wasn't a Jew. Then they came for the trade unionist, and I didn't speak up because I wasn't a trade unionist. Then they came for the Catholics, and I didn't speak up because I was a Protestant. Then they came for me, and by that time, no one was left to speak up. And so, whenever I just think about the injustices, that's the quote that I think of. Like, if we don't speak up for each other, then no one's going to speak up for me or us when we need the help. And so this is what has come true. Like, this is what I've been thinking around this topic, around taking a stand and being a leader. Let's talk about that first. So leadership is literally being a leader. It is leading your life. One is leading your life. We're all leaders. That's how I see it. Like, we're all leaders in one way, shape, form, another. We're all leaders because we're leading our lives. And the question is, what kind of leader do you want to be? And do you want to be a leader for change, for a positive impact, for influence? I do. And when I think even deeper, like when I first started on my leadership journey, it was around personal growth, like do the work so that you're not necessarily leading through autopilot, but you are working through the unconscious, subconscious, conditioning that so many of us have been brought up under. And be conscious of the work so that you can be the change, right? So that you can continue to rise and evolve as a human being. So that's one part of leadership. And even the word emergence, sacred emergence, is like from where we are at, from a place of us being good enough, we continue to grow and rise and evolve. And when I think even deeper as like, okay, if I talk about leadership, if I talk about courage, and if I'm about love, if I'm about humanity, supporting each other, if I'm about women rising, I cannot rise when I have friends, when I have, especially with my friends who are Black, and like I cannot rise when I see them hurting. And it's so easy to shove all of this under the carpet. It's so easy, and just pretend everything is okay when it's not. And it's uncomfortable. Like, all of this is uncomfortable. And this weekend, when I've been thinking about it, like the me being uncomfortable is not that relevant for me, because the topic of cultural appropriation, the topic around like I call it white spirituality. Like, it's not necessarily new in my world, because when I'm part of the Camp Soldas community, and Camp Soldas, as many of you know, is like I bring so many wonderful people on interviews from Camp Soldas. And one of the things when I was a counselor, and as counselor, part of the training is that we create a safe space. And in order to create a safe space, it's about inclusivity. It's about being, transliterate, cultural appropriation, and just being aware of our languaging, so that it is safe for people who have experienced trauma on all different levels. And so, I'm part of, different communities on Facebook and online in my mastermind groups. And one of the pieces that I hear, it's like, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. And I hate that this is happening. And I fully understand that. And we as people who are not Black, I feel like we need to say something, especially if we see ourselves as leaders. And so I wanted to share this on this platform in my podcast and share with you just like what I'm doing. I'm going to offer some resources in my show notes for anyone who wants to, be more informed, more educated, and be part of the change. Because I feel like the time is now, and it's like this is happening on purpose. There's so much injustices that I see it, and like I can't just pretend like, oh, because I'm not Black and because I'm not white, I'm just gonna go on my merry way. Um, I am privileged, even though I'm not white, I still have privilege. And even though I have experienced racism, not to the level that the Black community have experienced racism. And I have Black friends who have sons, and I never really, like, I've had small conversations around it, but now I want to have conversations around it to understand just what my Black community is going through. And like, I want to at least be a voice and learn so that I can have more awareness around this for my work, and make it so that it is a safe space for women to work with me of all backgrounds, and of all race. Like I want it to be a safe space. And because even though I'm not white, I'm raised in a white culture, and it's so easy to talk about love and light and all the high vibes, and be in the light, while ignoring the fact that there are people suffering, and that I cannot be in my high vibes necessarily and ignore the bigger issue. So it's called spiritual activism, right? And this is gritty. It's not necessarily comfortable. It's very uncomfortable, but my comfort is not, it doesn't have a place here. Because if we want to be part of the change, silence is not it. And so I'm honestly, yesterday, like, it's just so much easier to hide, right? So when I was thinking back yesterday, the thoughts that came to me is like, okay, what if I don't share anything? No one's expecting me to share anything. Like, I don't have to share anything. I don't have to share my thoughts around this. I could just be a silent bystander and like think to myself, this really sucks. I wish it wasn't the case, and I'm not racist. Although it's not about not racist, it's about being an anti-racist. It's about calling people out when they say something inappropriate, and bringing it to the surface and having the uncomfortable conversations, because this is how it's going to change. And so this is something that I am committed to, because yesterday I just realized my own thoughts, my own awareness of like, first of all, I don't even know if what I'm going to share is going to be impactful. But one of my friends on Facebook posted just a YouTube video on like understanding what white privilege is, and I watched it, and it was a video for it was like I don't know, it was like for teenagers. So by watching it, I understood it, and I felt like, okay, this is something I could speak to. Like I could share just my thoughts around it. And then so I shared a post, and knowing, like, a part of me felt, okay, the pressure to share a post has been relieved. And I was like, and still that's not really enough, but like, at least for now, I feel like the pressure has been released just a little bit, and I can continue on with my day. And at the same time, it's like, it's still not enough. And even though I am not like, I don't have like a huge following, and I don't have that type of influence at this moment, I feel like it's still important for me to show up. And so one of my mentors and coaches, Melanie Ann Layer, she came on twice to talk about what she's doing and how her perspective. And right now I'm taking her course, Alpha to Alpha, which is all about leadership. The timing of this I think is just perfect and so divine. And I just so respect Melanie, because I mean, she is white, and she is so committed to being part of the change, and she's open to having conversations in her group, and she's not shutting down conversations that are not comfortable. Like, she is open and she's here to learn. And she talks about we have to be uncomfortable. We have to be okay with the fact that if we share something and it's not right, we did it wrong, we have to be okay with the backlash, with the criticism from the Black community, and be willing to be like, okay, let me see what I could, like, let me learn. That is part of the change, and not being rewarded, or like, you don't get a cookie for trying. The reward is the change. We're all a part of this. And I see, and just from talking to my friends who are Black, like, it's like they're tired, it's exhausting. And so it's important for us who want to be part of the change to take a stand, and to continue to stand, and not just sit, because they're standing, and it is hard. And so for me, like, I'm reading up on articles, and I'll share some resources in the show notes. And I wanted to share that this morning I was watching a 20-minute IGTV on Instagram from this woman named Rachel Rogers. And she, I believe, is, I think she's an executive coach, and she is Black. And she was so angry, and she was sharing her opinion on Marie Forleo. And Marie Forleo, for those of you who don't know, she is a very successful businesswoman, and her STAR program is B School. And a lot of women, and a few men, but a lot of women have taken it since like 2009. And it's how to create your business online. And I took her program in 2010. Right? 2010. Yeah. 2011. I took her program in 2011. Her program came out in 2010, and I took it. And she's incredibly successful. And Rachel Rogers was calling her out because of how she was handling just the conversations around racism. And she was Marie Forleo, who has so many customers who purchased her program. It was just shutting down the conversation, saying it was not an appropriate place to talk about it. And so one of the things that I'm mindful of now is, like, where do I spend my money? Where am I spending my money? And I want my money to go towards businesses where my money is actually going to make a huge impact, right? So definitely like local businesses, and businesses owned by like people of color, particularly the Black community. And like, like, I'm a woman of color, and so like I really want to support companies where it's going to make a big change, a big difference, particularly if they do stand for equality and justice, and where I get to vote with my dollars, and really support businesses where my money will make a big financial impact. Whew, okay. What else did I want to talk about with this? Right, around being uncomfortable and being okay. This is leadership. It's okay if we F up, right? It's okay if we say something and it wasn't enough, because we're all learning, and we have to be willing to go through this in order to be better. And I feel like this is, one of the things I really appreciated when Rachel Rogers was talking is to name the person, to name the issue. Don't dance around it, just go straight to it, because it's only when we name it that we can bring it to light and we could see the truth. And I respect that so much. I'll share her link in like her rant. I'll share it in the show notes because it was really powerful, and I really resonated with her message. And something else that she shared was around Trump and around conservatism. And she said, and this is so true, it's like with Trump, they know what they're dealing with, so they can respond accordingly. With conservatism, just with like the hard right-wing conservatism, they know what they're dealing with. They can respond accordingly because it's in their face. But with like white liberal, it's so hard because there's things are in denial, things are being covered up, things are brushed under the carpet, and it's like, you say you're our friends, but like you're denying the issue, you're pretending it doesn't exist, and because no one is willing to be uncomfortable. And this is a time as leaders that it is time to get uncomfortable. Uncomfortable is just like a fart in the wind compared to what they're facing. Yeah, and I'm mindful of, there are big communities of successful women who have such a big influence. And I'm disappointed with Marie Forleo's her reaction, and I'm calling Marie Forleo because I gave her money, and I follow her. Um, it doesn't make sense to me. And something I really resonated with Rachel Rogers is she said, if you're going to take money from people of color, from the Black community, and you don't allow a safe space for it, then don't take their money. Give it, like, say no. There's actually other people who can serve you better, and that is something that I really responded with that. Like, I really resonated with that. Yeah, and so those are my thoughts around this topic. And that for me, like this weekend when I journaled, what does it mean to be a leader? How do I want to show up? How do I want to take a stand? I wrote, I stand for women rising. I stand for showing up, doing the work, spiritual growth, personal growth, being in the field, so taking action. And it's so easy for me to say, well, women rising and all of this has nothing to do with racism. It's nothing to do with like supporting Black communities. This is like completely separate. So I'm going to brush it off and just not talk about it. But that was not acceptable for me, especially when I do have friends who are affected by this. And even though I don't have a huge following, it doesn't matter, because all it takes is for each one of us to stand and be the change, right? To stand and be in this together, to fight racism together, and recognize that there's so many of us who are privileged, regardless of the fact that I'm Chinese and I'm not necessarily white, but I was raised in a white culture, and I do have friends who are Black, and I know that they have children and they have sons that they're raising, and not even that, it's just even beyond that. This is humanity. This is like, if my baseline is love, then I want to show up for people. And there's so much craziness, when I read comments. When I read comments on people's posts around this topic, there's some people who are backlashing it, saying it's not racism. There's like so many, like there's so much fear, there's so much denial. And the more of us who's willing to at least share their voice, and be willing to F up, and still like, and it doesn't mean stop everything and focus on this, but it's like it doesn't mean stop what you're doing and focus on this 100%. For me, if I'm talking about leadership, if I'm talking about courage, then I need to at least take a stand for this, for myself, because it just did not make sense for me to talk about about doing this work and ignoring this big issue, because the injustices that the Black community face is ridiculous, and it's systemic, and it's not even in the U.S., it's worldwide, but it is just blatant in the U.S. and it's violent. And the way that the community is being treated is just it's just abominable. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to share some resources in my show notes. There are a few books that and a few articles that I'm going to read, and it's just around getting myself educated, and especially if I'm a coach. If I'm going to work with people, then I want to make sure it's a safe container, and be open to having conversations if I'm doing something that's wrong, or if I'm saying something that is hurtful. It's just bringing it to the awareness so that people feel safe, and doing my best, and knowing that this is a process, and it's not about saying the right thing. It's about showing up and being part of this change, even if it's uncomfortable. And that's the work of a leader. It's doing work that's uncomfortable. It's going first. Even if there's not a lot of followers, this is something that I believe in. So that's what I have to share for you all today. Thank you for listening. And If you have any feedback, if I'm open, so send me a DM. You can send me a DM on Instagram, michellewong.xo. You can send me a note, and I appreciate you and just thank you so much. I also wanted to share that the Courage Collective, so my membership group is open, and right now it is an early bird special until end of June 3rd, so this Wednesday, and it's a really great container. I'm just loving the women who are in the group, and so if you feel like you want to be part of a sisterhood where we're encouraged to show up for our dreams and to be brave and have the support, then the Courage Collective would be a perfect place for you. How I changed the structure. So right now we meet twice a month over Zoom to kind of share our stories, where we're at, and just anything that wants to come through. And then weeklies, every Monday, I will pop on and I will share a topic that's related to courage, leadership, human design. And so for today, June 1st, when this episode is live, the topic we'll talk about for today is on resistance. And that was a topic that I just felt it, like resistance is a topic and everybody just loved it. So we're going to touch upon that. And you know, a lot of times around courage and leadership, it's not always about doing. A lot of it is about how are we taking care of ourselves? How are we taking care of our nervous system? Where is the self-care piece? Like the femininity, like the feminine flow of receiving. So that's going to be touched upon as well. So it's not just the doing. There's a lot of the balancing of the feminine side, which is really important. So also there's that as well. And then on Friday, we will do a check-in on, you know, how the week has gone based on the topic or based on a challenge or something fun that we can work towards, and really just getting outside our comfort zones and doing the thing that will take us a little bit closer to towards our dreams or towards whatever it is that we want to create. And it's just, I'm celebrating all the women so hard right now for how they're showing up. So if this is something that's interest to you, June 3rd is the deadline for the early bird pricing. And so you can claim your spot at the membership pricing at the early bird rate. And then after June 3rd, prices go back up to regular pricing. And then that will be your price that you pay per month. And you can cancel anytime. You're not locked into any contract or anything like that. So you can definitely just check it out and see if it resonates with you. That's totally cool. And so once right now there's 5 more spots for people coming in, because I feel like 10 people plus myself it's an amount that I would love to hold space for. And so doors will close after that. And every time I reopen the doors for membership, the pricing will change, because I'm just encouraging people who want in, who are ready to take action. And I'm totally celebrating that. So if this is something that you're feeling called to, jump in. And of course, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Send me a DM over IG, michellewong.xo, and I'll also share a link in the show notes if you want more details. I keep it pretty vague because I just feel like, trust your body's wisdom if this is the right container for you, and you really have nothing to lose. So anyway, love you all. Thank you for tuning in. Send me feedback on this episode if it resonated or if you have thoughts on it, and check out the resources in the show notes. And I'm not the expert. I'm learning as well, and so let's all learn and do this together so that we can create a better change. We can create change for the better. All right, everybody, love you all. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, afternoon, evening, wherever you're at, and I will see you soon. Cheers. Join our free private Facebook group community, Sacred Emergence, to receive more connection, guidance, and support, and take part in our 5-day Inner Confidence Challenge to not only boost your confidence, but to help activate your inner leadership. Details in the show notes. Thank you for listening to the Sacred Emergence podcast. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and thank you in advance for sharing this with others who can benefit. Until next time.